a well-known businessman in the tech industry. Not the most significant day of their lives. His golden cufflinks caught the light as he leaned back in his seat. Lisa couldn't understand how Michael could be so confident, but she knew one thing. Today wasn't going to end the way Michael thought it would, whispered Daniel, her lawyer, leaning toward her. As they waited for the proceedings to begin, his voice was steady, a contrast to the storm brewing inside her chest. Everything is under control. Lisa glanced at him, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. She had always trusted Daniel, but today was different. She wasn't sure she could rely on anyone but herself now. Michael had made it clear over the last 6 months that this divorce, this dismantling of their 20-year marriage was nothing but a transaction to him. He'd already taken their money, their home, their daughter's college fund. All of it, gone without a word of remorse. But today, Lisa had a plan. The judge, a stern woman with a sharp gaze, banged her gavel, and the room fell silent. Mr. Hawke, she began, her voice echoing across the room. You claim that Mrs. Hawke has no financial stake in the business assets. Is that correct? Michael's lawyer, a smooth-talking man in his 40s, stood up confidently. Yes, Your Honor. The Hawke Technologies company was founded with Michael's personal funds and efforts. Mrs. Hawke did not contribute in any professional or financial capacity. She has no claim to it. Lisa's pulse quickened. As she listened, it was the lie that Michael had been telling everyone for years. The lie that she had never worked, never contributed. It was the narrative he'd constructed. In order to erase her role in building everything they had together, Daniel leaned in again, his voice quiet but firm. Your Honor, he said, standing up, we object to this claim. My client was not only an integral part of this business, but also sacrificed much of her personal life to ensure its success. Lisa nodded slightly. She wasn't just a housewife. She had been the silent partner, the one who had sacrificed her career, her social life, and her own ambitions so that Michael could chase his dreams. She had helped build Hawke Technologies from the ground up, supporting him when he made the brave decision to leave his stable job to go after a risky business idea. She had put their family's future on hold so that his could flourish. But none of that mattered to him now. Michael's smirk only widened, as though he could already see the finish line. The judge's eyes narrowed, sensing the tension. Proceed. But before Michael could respond, Daniel moved forward with a stack of documents, laying them out before the judge. We have substantial evidence that Mr. Hawke has been hiding assets, Daniel said, his tone cold and calculated. Over the past 6 months, Mr. Hawke has transferred over $5 million into offshore accounts under shell companies, money that should have been disclosed during these proceedings. The courtroom was stunned into silence. Lisa felt her heart race. This was the moment. The evidence she had spent months uncovering was finally coming to light. Michael's arrogance faltered, and Lisa could see the first crack in his facade. You can't be serious. Michael scoffed, but his voice was now edged with uncertainty. Daniel didn't flinch. Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Hawke's hidden financial activities are extensive. We also have proof of several large purchases, luxury yachts, and property under false names. These funds were not only hidden from the court, but they were concealed in ways that would not have been detected without forensic accounting. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs of disbelief. Michael's smirk had disappeared entirely. His eyes flicked nervously toward his lawyer, but even he couldn't hide the panic creeping into his expression. Objection. Michael's lawyer barked, "This evidence is inadmissible. Where did this information come from?" Daniel's smile was thin. "We hired a forensic accountant, one who specializes in uncovering financial mismanagement and fraud. He's ready to testify under oath." Lisa could feel Michael's panic in the air, and for the first time, she allowed herself a small, private smile. She had won this battle. But it wasn't over yet. The judge raised an eyebrow, clearly unfazed by the chaos now unfolding in front of her. Mr. Hawke, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. Do you have any explanation for these transactions? Michael hesitated, the weight of the courtroom's gaze on him, before he opened his mouth. But no words came out. He closed it again, frustration and fear clouding his features. Finally, his lawyer stood. Your Honor, we request a recess to review these documents. There must be some mistake here. Daniel raised a hand, silencing the objections. There is no need for a recess. The documents are legitimate, and we have a witness who can confirm the validity of these transactions. Michael's face turned ashen, and Lisa's heart swelled with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Justice. For months, she had felt as though she were trapped in an endless spiral of helplessness, unable to escape the manipulations of a man who had once promised to be her partner. But now, the tables had turned. As the judge looked at Michael, her gaze was cold, final. Mr. Hawke, do you wish to respond? Greg's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. He was powerless now. Lisa leaned forward, her voice steady, cutting through the tension in the room. Olivia, she said, her gaze locking with the younger woman's. You've been in the dark too, haven't you? Olivia's eyes widened, confusion and guilt crossing her face. What are you talking about? Lisa smiled, a knowing look crossing her face. Those offshore accounts. Some of them aren't just business transactions. They're personal withdrawals. Money Michael has moved for you. For the first time since the proceedings began, Olivia's confident demeanor faltered. She looked from Lisa to Michael, realization dawning on her like a cold wave. She had been played just as much as Lisa had. Michael turned to Olivia, his voice low but sharp. Not now. Olivia, he muttered, trying to regain control, but it was too late. Olivia stood abruptly, her face flushed with anger and betrayal. You told me everything was fine. Olivia snapped. You said we were in this together, but all along you were lying to me too. The courtroom watched in stunned silence as Olivia stormed out, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Lisa turned back to Greg, her voice calm, but with a bite of victory. I didn't just sit back. Greg, I fought for what's mine and for what's right. The judge turned back to Michael, her expression unforgiving. Given the evidence, I rule in favor of Mrs. Hawke. She is entitled to 50% of all disclosed and undisclosed marital assets, including those hidden in offshore accounts. Michael sat frozen, unable to respond. His world was crumbling around him, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The courtroom remained eerily silent as the judge banged her gavel with a finality that seemed to echo through the entire building. Lisa felt the weight of those words sink deep into her chest, but this time it wasn't the crushing weight of defeat. This weight was the pressure of victory, of redemption, and of a new life beginning. Michael Hawke's empire, the one he had spent years constructing through manipulation, lies, and deceit, was unraveling right before his eyes. The silence that followed was filled with the sound of his labored breathing. As if he couldn't quite comprehend what was happening. For the first time since the trial began, Michael's smirk was gone, replaced with a face that seemed drained of color. His fists were clenched tightly around the edge of the table, knuckles white with the force of his grip. Lisa watched him, her eyes steady, knowing that everything he had built had been done at the expense of her sacrifice. And now the consequences were here. You can't be serious, Michael muttered, his voice breaking as he tried to find some control over the situation. His gaze flicked nervously between the judge, his lawyer, and Lisa, He could see that there was no way out. Lisa wasn't finished. Her voice, calm but firm, rang out once more. "I'll add something else. Your honor," she said, her gaze now turning to Olivia, who was still standing in the doorway, seething with frustration. "Olivia," Lisa said sweetly, her tone almost mockingly pleasant. "Did you know about the money Michael was moving behind your back too?" Olivia looked at her, a confused expression flashing across her face. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Oh, you didn't know?" Lisa asked with a raised eyebrow, her gaze sharp as she continued. "Some of those offshore transfers weren't just business accounts. They were personal withdrawals. Michael bought that apartment for you under his alias. But it's not his money. Olivia, it's our marital asset." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Olivia's face turned pale as she absorbed the words. She had been living in a lie, just as Lisa had been. The woman who had once been Michael's mistress was now a victim of his lies, and Lisa could see the realization settling in like a weight on Olivia's shoulders. Olivia turned toward Michael, her eyes wide with fury and disbelief. "You told me everything was sorted out," she hissed, her voice trembling with anger. "You said I had nothing to worry about." Michael's face twisted into a grimace. His jaw clenched as he turned to her. "Enough, Olivia," he snapped, but his voice lacked its usual power. It was too late. Olivia was done. The tension in the courtroom reached its breaking point. Olivia stormed toward the exit, her heels clicking angrily against the floor. "I should have known better than to trust you," she shouted, her voice tinged with rage. "I wasted 2 years on you. And for what? To be lied to. You are nothing but a fraud." Lisa watched as Olivia left, the echoes of her footsteps fading in the hallway. She felt a strange sense of satisfaction in seeing Olivia walk away. Michael's treachery had been revealed to everyone in the room, and now the woman who had been complicit in it would suffer the same consequences. Turning back to Michael, Lisa allowed herself a moment to enjoy the full weight of what was happening. "You really thought you could get away with this, didn't you?" she said quietly, her voice low but resolute. "You thought I'd just sit by and watch you destroy everything. Well, Greg, it's over." The judge, who had been watching the entire scene unfold with a mix of sternness and curiosity, looked at Michael one last time. "Mr. Hawke," she said, her voice unwavering, "given the evidence of financial misconduct and concealment of assets, I am ordering an independent audit of your personal and business finances. Any concealed assets will be subject to additional penalties, including criminal charges." Michael's face went ashen, and Lisa could almost see the weight of the world pressing down on him. For the first time in years, he had no power, no control. As the gavel struck again, signifying the end of the proceedings, the courtroom erupted into a flurry of whispers and murmurs. Lisa could barely process the reality of what had just happened. The world she had known, her marriage, her life, her reputation, had all been upended in a matter of hours. And yet, here she was, standing tall, victorious. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift from her shoulders. For so long, she had felt powerless, torn between the life she had built for herself and the emotional toll Michael's betrayal had taken on her. But now, as the echoes of the courtroom faded, she realized that she had won something far more valuable than money. She had regained her dignity, her sense of self-worth. "Thank you, Daniel," she said, turning to her lawyer, who was standing beside her, a small, satisfied smile on his face. "You've done more than I could have ever imagined." Daniel nodded, his expression calm but proud. "You did the hard part, Lisa. You fought for yourself. I just helped you get the truth out." As they walked out of the courtroom, the harsh reality of the outside world hit Lisa like a wave. The afternoon sun was bright, and the cool air seemed to cleanse her skin, brushing away the last remnants of her past. She walked past the rows of reporters, her eyes forward, knowing that her future was now in her own hands. Her phone buzzed in her purse. Lisa paused, reaching inside and pulling it out. She smiled when she saw the text message from her daughter. "Emily, Mom, I saw the ruling. He got what he deserved. I'm so proud of you. Let's celebrate tonight." "My treat." Lisa couldn't help but laugh softly, her heart swelling with pride. "Dinner at our favorite place tonight." "Emily," she typed back quickly, "I'll treat you. I think we both deserve it." As she slipped the phone back into her purse, she looked up at the sky, feeling an overwhelming sense of relief and renewal. She had waited so long for this moment, but now that it was finally here, it felt like the beginning of something new, something better. For the first time in years, Lisa wasn't looking back, she was looking forward, and the future had never seemed brighter. 2 months had passed since the court ruling that had forever changed Lisa Hawke's life. The final settlement had been agreed upon, but it wasn't just the money that gave Lisa a sense of peace. It was the freedom. The freedom to live life on her terms, to step away from the shadow of her past, and to reclaim the power she had lost during her marriage. Her life had been upended in ways she hadn't expected, but now every step forward felt like a small victory. She had finalized the divorce papers, moved into a new apartment, and even begun to rebuild her career, something she had put on hold for years. In support of Michael's ambitions. For the first time in a long while, Lisa felt like herself again. The pieces of her life that had once seemed so scattered and out of place were starting to come together. Her daughter, Emily, had been a constant support throughout the entire process. Emily had been the one to remind her mother of her worth when the weight of the betrayal seemed unbearable. Together, they had navigated the legal battles, the emotional turbulence, and the uncertainty of an unknown future. Now, Emily was excited about her mom's newfound confidence and the new chapter she was beginning. But while Lisa embraced this new life, Michael had been far from silent in his defeat. The independent audit of his finances had uncovered far more than anyone had anticipated. He had lost millions, not only from hidden assets, but from failed investments and penalties. From the tax investigations, Hawke Technologies, once a thriving company, had been plagued by scandal and poor management. In the wake of the revelations, investors had pulled out, and the company's reputation had taken a massive hit. Michael's downfall had been swift and unforgiving. The media coverage of his financial mismanagement, combined with the legal battles, had forced him into a corner. His once confident posture, his arrogance that had defined their marriage, had been replaced with a shell of the man he once was. He had no answers, no explanations for the mess he had made of his life. But it wasn't just Michael's professional failure that struck him hard. It was the emotional fallout from Olivia after the trial. Olivia had immediately cut ties with him, realizing she had been deceived, just as much as Lisa had been. She had aired their dirty laundry across social media, exposing the details of their relationship, their financial dealings, and Michael's many lies. She had become a vocal advocate for exposing the truth, and the public reaction was swift. Lisa didn't care about Olivia's actions or Michael's failures. She wasn't interested in the scandal anymore. For her, the most important thing was the peace that had returned to her life. She didn't need revenge. Seeing Michael struggle was enough of a consequence for everything he had put hyper through one afternoon as Lisa sat on the balcony of her new apartment, the soft autumn breeze tousling her hair. She reflected on the past few months. The feeling of empowerment that had surged through her during the court proceedings had stayed with her, but now it was tempered by a quiet sense of relief. She no longer felt the pressure of Michael's control over her life. She was free. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Daniel. Lisa, just wanted to let you know that the forensic audit revealed even more hidden accounts, this time linked to other shell companies. Greg's facing more penalties than he ever imagined. His entire empire is crumbling. I thought you'd want to know. Lisa smiled to herself as she read the message. It felt surreal. She had fought so hard for her dignity and her share of what was rightfully hers. And now, Michael's downfall was complete. But she wasn't rejoicing in his suffering. She was simply grateful to be free. As she looked out over the city, Lisa felt the warmth of a new beginning. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into that courthouse months ago, trembling and uncertain. She was stronger now, more resilient, and more confident than she had ever been. Her phone buzzed again, and this time it was a text from Emily. Dinner tonight. You promised me a treat. I think we both deserve a celebration. Lisa couldn't help but laugh. Absolutely. I'll be there in 30 minutes, she typed back, feeling a sense of excitement building within her. It was time to celebrate. It was time to look forward. As she gathered her things and stepped out into the world, Lisa realized something profound. Her future was wide open. She didn't have to be defined by the past. She had fought for herself. And she had won. Every challenge she had faced had only made her stronger. And now she could face the future with confidence and a sense of purpose. Michael had been her past. But now, Lisa was her future. Epilogue, a new chapter. Months later, Lisa sat in her favorite cafe, a place she and Emily used to visit when life was simpler. The sunlight poured through the windows, casting warm golden rays across the table. Emily was across from her, smiling, and the two of them exchanged stories about their lives since the divorce. You know, Emily said, her eyes sparkling, I think this is the happiest I've ever seen you. Mom, you look peaceful. Lisa smiled, a soft laugh escaping her lips. I guess I've finally learned to be at peace with myself, to not let someone else's choices define who I am. Emily nodded, taking a sip of her coffee. I'm so proud of you. Lisa's heart swelled. She was proud of herself too. And for the first time in years, she felt like everything was exactly as it should be. Michael was gone from her life, his influence no longer holding any power over her. She had moved on. And the future, no longer clouded by betrayal or fear, was something she could shape with her own hands. As the two women continued to talk, the world outside continued its quiet hum. Lisa knew that she was on the path to something incredible. The scars from her past would never fully disappear, but they no longer defined her. She was writing her own story now, and this one would be her own.